So I'd like to begin with a class discussion as usual. Can anyone tell me how the primary sources used during the Scramble for Africa activity shows the effects of imperialism on Africa? Think about those two boys. What was different about their clothing? Yes?
They were more Western, like, well, I guess we could consider normal clothing that they looked like after. Or even though they were holding like farming tools, so maybe slaves or something.
What do those tools say about the transition of society? Yes?
Like all of the two kids were wearing like more Western clothing and Western tools, like implying that like in the picture that Western culture was more superior.
Right, great. And I like those words that you use, Western, right? We're not saying that they're better or more like better clothing, right? It's just Westernized clothing, right? It's different from the traditional clothing that the Africans were wearing. And you also mentioned those tools that they were using, right? How they were using farming tools instead of the hunter-gatherer tools in the traditional picture where they're holding a spear. These tools are meant to be used for different purposes, right? And those farming tools, of course, were most likely used to farm cash crops for the Europeans. So I'd like you to open the effects of imperialism activity, the effects of imperialism in Africa activity handout in Schoology. I'm going to start reading the instructions. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 was a European conference, and although black South Africans participated in it, the Boer War was largely a European war. Europeans argued and fought amongst themselves over the lands of Africa. In carving up the continent, the European countries paid little or no attention to historical political divisions or to the many ethnic and language groupings in Africa. Uppermost in the minds of the Europeans was the ability to control Africa lands and its people. With a partner, create a map with descriptions to show the European colonies and independent Ethiopia in Africa after reading the assigned textbook pages. And as usual, the textbook pages are available for you on the activity handout, as are the key vocabulary terms. The map that you will be using will be this blank map of Africa. You can either individually, you can draw on here and use the markers from the cabinet over there, or you can do it digitally through Paint. And I'm only requiring that you, if your partner wants to work on the coloring, you know, you can maybe do the coloring and then your partner can do the studying work, or, you know, you can share responsibility. I also would like to emphasize that don't spend too much time drawing the map. Spend more time on the descriptions and on the final response, because that is the bulk of your grade. The map, you know, you're not supposed to, I don't expect you to draw every country on the map. What I expect to see is the colonies. And your best resource for drawing this map will be this map that is on the activity handout, in which case you would follow the top map of Africa, because that is more consistent with the time period that we were studying during this unit. So please get into partners and start working on the activity. here I'm only requiring, can I hold this for a second? I'm only requiring Britain, France, Germany, independent Ethiopia, and Italy. Yeah. You guys need a sheet? Yes. If you would like to, at the end of the activity, sort of get moving. Well, it's not just written, it's also, yeah, and we're gonna give a description. What I'm mainly looking for is, what how do they control their laws? So there's a good, map here where it says like, it describes indirect and direct control. So like, the French practice more, direct control, whereas the British practice more indirect control, right? That's how we would go about describing the different. Sorry? Different colors? Yes. Over in that cabinet over there, you can go right. There's a map on. You can hold on to this, but there's also a map on the activity handout.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Everyone's doing that. But I couldn't even pull it
I
up. I thought it is too. I said everyone's doing it. The Gabby has that? That's having How do you do that?
Yeah. Not all of them, so just that kind of stuff.
No, that's sweet. Red is Spanish. Blue science. Blue is math.
Of course, the bounty but that was part of the previous chapter. I'm not requiring you to draw it. If you feel like you would like to draw it, I would encourage you, but it's not required. Yeah, I mean, go for it, but I think, like, as I said before, work mostly on the description and the common response, because that's going to be your bulk of your grade. This math is important, but I don't want you to spend too much time on that. I want you to focus on the final response.
Is it one per person?
Yes, one per person, yeah. Not one per person, like, you guys can work together.
No.
And he can draw the, you could have one map and then.
So we only need one for the group.
Yeah, but you have to take a picture of the map and then post it on the activity handout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you can work together on the same map and
Yeah.
it's fine, yeah. Yes, you will be. You will be, Jacob. Is it Junjie? Is your Chinese name? How's it going, ladies? Do you need like a blank Africa map?
Yeah.
So you can go get it finished?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Go.
That's the name of that is the country.
Yes. This map
Okay, so that's
near the end of the activity. Right there, yeah. So the top map I would say focus on is more relevant to the time period. And then use that map to kind of draw this map. And then, I'm sorry. So use this map to kind of as a reference for this map. And don't spend too much time on it. Don't draw every single country, just draw the outline of the colors. So, like when I ask location, is it in the north, is it in the south, is it like that kind of thing? When I'm asking about like their government and stuff like that, what I'm mostly wanting to do is reference this part of the textbook where it talks about indirect control versus direct control. And I would like you to, talk about which countries practice direct control versus which countries practice indirect control. Yes. I'm sorry, did I forget your map?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Also, we have a question about, so are we just, when we read the text pages, are we just then filling in, making the map of Africa on the?
So there's a map on the text, on the, near the bottom that kind of looks like this.
This one?
A little bit lower, that one, yeah. So the top one is more relevant to the time period, so I'd recommend using this one as a reference. And so you're not drawing every country on the map, you're just drawing the colonies and independent Ethiopia. So here's independent Ethiopia, all the colonies, so all this stuff is French colonies. You're not going to draw the borders of the countries, right? You're just going to draw the borders of the colonies, right?
Okay, and then for the description, what do we put there?
So like, when I ask location, are they mostly in the north, are they mostly in the south, or like that kind of thing. When I ask politics and history, what I'm mostly asking for is, what kind of control are the Europeans practicing over these colonies? So like, for example, some of them practice indirect control versus direct. So the British were more indirect control, whereas the French were more direct control. That's kind of what I would want in your description of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Of course, yeah. That's why I encourage you to look at one. You would put that as a description for the British colonies. So like, it's talking about how the British practiced indirect control. So this diagram here about direct and indirect control is really useful for that, for laying out the description of that. What I'm looking for is how did the Europeans control these colonies, right? Did they directly control them or were they indirect? The British were more indirect control. Yes, and also you could also talk about the effects too, but it's mostly just a description of the colony itself. So for example, when you're talking about the German colonies, you're going to be talking, the textbook mostly goes into the Maji Rebellion. So you just give a brief description of the Maji Rebellion and how that affected the German colony. So just follow what the textbook does and kind of give like a description of the colonies. Yeah,
At the bottom of the
textbook
description,
does.
investigation of politics history, we know in politics, we would say it's direct control, indirect control, and he said he would use it as an example of
This map
that
is
British was indirect control, and then to define more, we could provide, just read through the
All this stuff here is like that's French colonies. Don't forget the Italian colonies, Somalia, and I'm not asking you to draw the outline of every single country. What I'm asking is for you to draw the outline of the colonies. So don't feel like you have to draw the countries in the map. Just feel like you have to outside the colonies. It's a great idea. And don't forget that Germany was on the colony over here, which is called Rhodesia at the time. That's fine. Yeah, it's not. I'm not looking for total accuracy here. It's just for practice. And also, don't forget about the Italian colonies in Somaliland and Eritrea.
I'm looking at the key.
You guys know from that? Yeah, I highly recommend starting with this map. Yeah, when you're only using British colonies. Yeah, or yes, and Germany. So yeah, and then it would be right here. Italian would be next in Eritrea and Somaliland. We didn't have any colonies. And then Germany had some colonies in Rhodesia over here, so I would definitely recommend to start. And also, do not feel like you have to draw every country on the map. Just focus on the colonies, okay? And I'm not super picky about accuracy, but I would like you to be as accurate as possible. And don't spend too much time on the map, because although the map is part of the grade, the bulk of the grade is the description and the final response.
So,
Looks good, yeah. Sorry, one second. Yeah, and so like, for example, oh, yeah, so ours is on. And I'm not looking for like super accurate drawings, like get as accurate as possible. And don't spend too much time on the map because the bulk of the grade is going to be the description and the final response. So just draw an outline of the colonies, that's all I'm looking for. Yes. The Africans lost thousands of people. So like they would fight like the Zulus, right? And the Maji Maji were the German colony. I mean, it's discussed in the chapter. I don't know if we're not there yet.
Except for Belgian, Spanish, Portuguese.
Yes. Good, yeah, I'll just color it. But you don't have to. Obviously, it's great math. Very good, awesome. You have to take a picture of it and post it on
And then I start taking over the class, and then for me, and then I keep your eyes on paper, you're cheating. Hello.
It's a nice afternoon.
How's it going, guys? Right. So I'll focus on this map here in the handout. The map for 1930 is more relevant to this country. Yeah, the one above there, that one. So we're going to use that map as a reference. Here's independent Ethiopia, and some Italian colonies in Eritrea, Somalia. Don't forget, Germany has a colony in Rhodesia. So just use that map as a guide. But I would focus also, you don't need to draw every country. Just look for the colonies. So don't spend too much time drawing this map. Spend more time focusing on the descriptions and the final response. Yeah, so this is not like fully composed by Britain yet. It's just like these small parts. So you just might want to like, yeah, so that means that's independently controlled right here. Right, that's South Africa's independent dominion.
Great drawing.
And independent dominion here. So I would recommend just doing both British influence and British possession. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, so
No, I'm
I would
chilling.
recommend
I'm chilling.
doing one of the outline is territory if you can, but you don't have to. Yeah, if you want to just color it all the same color for England, you could do that. It's still part of English.
I didn't get a
so
blue.
I would include it. Yeah.
I wanted a blue.
Yep. Yep. Yes.
Alright, this is our last question.
For the British colonies, is it British possession?
Right. You could label the influence areas. I'm not requiring it, but if you want to just color them all as British, that is fine.
So that we could do both of them?
So they both that are British
If you want to label the influenced areas with stripes instead of solid color to signify them as influence instead of a colony, then you can do that. But I'm not requiring that. You could just make it all a solid color
for British
for
possession.
British possessions.
Okay.
Wait, I have a question, like, would this like area work as like,
France.
yeah, the French colonization?
Yep. And don't forget the Germans control like this part over here. There's also a British colony over there.
Yeah, that's why I like took it out.
Yep, that's good.
Wait, Mr. Grace, since they're like all spread out everywhere, what do we say for location?
So you would say, like, yeah, majority, but you would say like a majority. So like for France, a majority of it's in the north, right?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Where should we put the picture of the map?
On the activity handout,
But wait, should we put it at the top or should we put it in your final?
you see here where this blank map. Just delete that blank map and then post it. So what I'm mostly looking for is how did the Europeans control the colonies, right? That's mostly like in this diagram here. Yeah, some of it's in the first paragraph, but I mean, I would make, yeah, this diagram here we talk about direct and indirect control. So you kind of want to explain, you know, which colonies were directly controlled, which colonies were indirectly controlled.
Also, like, how they demand more influence when they go over, they demanded more influence over the political and social life.
That's part of the politics of that colony. Not in Africa. We're talking about Africa here. So like, and also, I would also say that you don't need to outline every single country on the map. I would say mostly, you know, just focus on the colonies, right? Just give an outline of the colonies. Don't spend too much time on the colonies. Don't spend too much time on the map because the description and the final response is what I want you to focus on. So just a brief, you know, and I'm not looking for super accurate maps, you know. So just a basic outline and is what I'm looking for, and then I'll say start working on the description.
Like, how about you just do the entire map and then I just do this.
I mean, I'm already
It just makes
thinking
more
this
sense.
down, man.
Showing your work.
I'm focusing on how the Europeans were controlling the colonies, right? So there's this description here about direct versus indirect control. So which colonies were directly controlled, which colonies were directly controlled? The British practiced more direct control, whereas the French practiced more direct control. And like, you know, what happened in the colonies too, so I know what the German colonies and the modern colonies the description will be written in near the end of the activity handout. Yep, there. And you also include like location and, you know, that kind of thing. Yes. Keep them like, yeah. How's it going?
I'm famous.
Right. So I'll just want to say
Next year. When I go back, I'll do this. I'll be done with this. That's how efficient it is.
and then I'll also
Show your
like,
work.
You know, where the British colonies are mostly located. We have a lot of colonies in here region, right? So
good
like
go.
Northeastern Africa, right? But they also have colonies in the south here. So you include that. Yeah. definition of imperialism. Look at the, we look at our key vocabulary lists. So if you look at the book of key vocabulary list, on the, near the top. Yeah, so what is the definition of imperialism? Right. So how does this map demonstrate imperialism? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I know. It's okay. So can I ask that question? Think about, who controlled all these territories? Is it the Africans or the Europeans? Right, that shows imperialism, right? That shows the effects of imperialism. They are in Africa. If you look at the map, there's a lot of colonies in Africa. Yeah, all that pink area. Not follow this map up here, not so long down here. So all this pink area is British colonies. So there was a lot of colonies in Africa during this time period by the British.
Oh, we don't know that yet.
I would focus on both Britain and the US, yeah. You don't have to draw all the countries, just the colonies, but I appreciate you doing the extra effort. But I would also, yeah, so you focus on the research.
She is.
Yes. Yeah, use evidence from the text.
Oopsie, sorry. So now we can find out their politics. So look, this page is when you should be. This one, where you kind of hang on. This one. This one. On page.
Yeah, but you look at all the countries, like, they were, like, these countries in between, yeah, exactly, you don't need to go to the You can start now though, just by, you don't have to complete the whole map. Yeah, roll that on You guys need like markers or anything? You want a new map? Sure, I'll give you one. Sorry, 1 minute. Yes. Call me.
You could probably just put like asterisk.
I would also think about spot rebellion for the German colony. But you did have a good description of that so far there. So I definitely think like for the Italian colonies, I think your description would mostly be focused around their relationship with Ethiopia. Right? Yeah, so you have good, everything's good so far. I'll say maybe at the Machi Machi Rebellion with Germany, and that would be my only.
They go back.
Yeah.
No. Yes, from today's video. Yeah.
But there.
You guys doing the descriptions? The final response too? Did you post a picture on the, oh, you even put the Belgian Congo in there, nice. Can I see your descriptions? Oh, you didn't put the description in there. Yeah, you guys gotta do that. The final response too.
We did the final response.
So we're trying to find like the history and so down here with
No, they're dependent. They're not controlled by any.
oh, so
Europe.
that's what
Yeah.
oh, because I thought it said like here it says like
Sir Lewis Hamilton.
oh wait. But also for the history, where would we find
It's all in the, yeah. Yep, they're an independent country, and I'll also mention about the relationship with Italy. What happened, you know, what did Italy do? Yeah, so you talked about that. You're welcome.
In the center.
How you guys doing with that? Wow, you did a good job drawing the country. So you're starting to work on the inscriptions and sorry, did that scare you? So you're you got the inscriptions down? Great.
Mr. Guru, how long is the final response?
3 seconds. It's in general, yeah. So how does this map create? So when I ask you, how does this map created to show the different controls? Who controls all these territories that you draw the map? And these are what kind of countries we're talking about? Exactly, yeah. So that shows imperialism by control of European policy.
I think this change like where with the F1 recruiter just showed up. Yeah, we saw you like where riding your bike. I think you're pretty good.
We saw you ride your bike. Here, get in this like very expensive, very fast car.
Yeah, so some of these are not calling for like influence, so like there's British influence. I'm not going to require you to like mark it on the map, just because it's a lot of like extra work, you know. So just any British influence or British colonies, mark them as British on the map.
So you need to take their land.
I'm so confused, like say like the Roman colony, like that was like European, but then they like settled in Africa, and then they tried to impose like imperialism on like
Yeah, and then you would also talk about the Maji Maji rebellion with the Germans and how the
Yeah,
Africans.
I'm just so confused. Like, if I wanted to say like, oh, like the British, like they influenced these.
Yeah.
So are these all like different?
They're under British influence. So yes, they would be under British influence. And I would also say that you want to focus on the. You're talking about their influence on the government, right? That would be part of the description.
Okay, so I said, it starts to be there.
But you guys are drawing the territories?
Yeah, I'll list them off.
Okay, so your descriptions. Wow, awesome. Good job so far. Wow, yeah, it looks really nice. Look at that.
Is there anything else to it?
Let me see. You have independent Ethiopia. If you want to, you can add the Belgian Congo if you're ambitious. Yes. Yeah. You're welcome. And you might want to include for scroll up a little bit how the British rule, or you already included that government institutions are based on European styles, but may have local rulers, and their goals were to develop future leaders, right? In the eyes of the Europeans, right? In the perspective of Europeans. Great. And then scroll down a little bit. And Ethiopia. Right, so you're talking about their independence from European countries, right? And can I see which country Ethiopia went to war with? For the Italian colonies.
There was double.
Can I see your final response? Okay, yeah. Great so far though, awesome. Yes.
That was the historic movie.
Good, yeah. If you want to draw, if you want to color it, you can. I'm not. You don't have to, Wow, that's amazing. Awesome. If you want to add the Belgian Congo in there, if you're ambitious enough, you can do that. Yep, yeah, if you want to draw all that. Obviously, that's not part of the chapter, so that's why I didn't require it for you to be part of the map, but you're welcome. Yes.
So for the final response, we were like talking about it. And like, does the map show imperialism? Because like you can see like the colonies that like were taken over and stuff.
So, if I was to ask you who controlled the majority of the land in Africa during this time, what would you say?
I'll probably have to go back to the map.
Was it the Europeans or the Africans who controlled most of the land?
I mean, I'm gonna guess the European.
Yes. So how does that show the effects of
Because
imperialism
they
on
were like
Africa?
taking over because of like racism and such like
Mhm.
that.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, now we could like take history. Gianni, stop.
And, yeah, your math class. So, you want to start preparing for the test tomorrow? Wow. Can I see it? Awesome. Did you notice?
And then we're gonna like reword everything.
Awesome. Do you have a thesis statement around here?
I'm gonna make one.
Okay, great.
It's like
Oh, by the way, it was.
I don't have it, but
Right.
I have like all my 3 points. I have like I've just had different weapons.
Mm-hmm. Weaponry would be one.
And then I just had different like traits. And then I had different war tactics.
Good. Awesome. Great.
Should we submit it?
Yes, and then I would highly recommend that you start preparing for the test
Do I have to
tomorrow.
fill out my like document?
Yes, so if you guys are working together, you know, the work that he did, you'd share with you'd share with each other. The work that you did. If you do control F, you can
And what's the country being controlled at
yes. So for the British, I would focus on their practice of direct control of the colonies. Yeah, so that treaty would be part of that, right? Yeah, I'll say that's good. Yeah. And if you want to start preparing for the test tomorrow, I would highly recommend that. For each paragraph.
So it doesn't have to be like 4 pieces of evidence for
Well, so for weaponry, that's one paragraph, right? So you'd have 4 pieces of evidence. You know, 2 of those evidence could be British, 2 of them could be.
Okay, so it can be combined.
Yeah, it's per paragraph. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And then, you know, obviously you're still working on it.
Oh wait, let me copy this.
Good. Yeah. Yep.
Is it okay if I did like this?
I wouldn't recommend doing that just because you're practicing for, I know you want me to see it better, but you're practicing, this is a practice kind of for college, you know, so in a college setting, that wouldn't really.
So what would I do?
You just write it normally, and I would take out the evidence myself.
No, I know, but like, I'll write your thing for this, because
Oh, of course, I'm not gonna be looking at your index card. Yeah. Yeah. But when you're writing the essay, obviously you wouldn't.
No, yeah, I write it.
Of course, yeah. Good, and I would say maybe it's more like, colonies in the eastern part of
Why is everything going right?
You know, for the British and French, I would say, you know, you want to talk about how the British practice, French practice direct control, and you want to talk about the different governing styles of those two colonies. After a while, they abandoned this assimilation and settled for the association.
Oh,
Right, so that would be correct.
Hi.
I would say it's more direct control, right? Towards the applicants to catch it off, yes, submitted, yeah.
we didn't finish it.
Yeah, you can keep it if you like, yeah. For the weaponry? Yeah. So that would be 3 pieces of evidence for the weaponry, right?
Oh, so like weaponry, and so like for my 3 points, I can have like 3 things for weaponry. It's be like weaponry, this and that.
Yeah. So for the one that I did, I had weapon. I didn't label it as weaponry. I labeled it as technology. I had technology, values, and military doctrine. So, you know, weaponry would be one for you. You might want to think like what else you could do. So like instead of doing military doctrine, maybe you could call it like you could do like their military methods, you know, something like that. And you might want to reorganize it differently too.
So for the like for like I said for one of my three points I said they have different ways of working. I say that like the British were more industrialized than the Zulus, and
Yep.
the Zulus like didn't really like speak. They just like I don't know.
Well, they had a spoken language, they didn't have a written language. Yeah. So yeah, that would be part of the societal values that you include in that paragraph.
And then for like the war tactics, I said
Yeah, so like one was organized by regiments, the other was organized by brigades, and also
the fears, like the charge.
yeah, so mass assault that the Zulus used. I got it. And
I thought that was yours.
No, it's there.
so you talk about the mass assault that the Zulus practiced, whereas the British utilized their superior firepower.
And for weapons, I talked about like how the Zulus were using spears and the British were using.
And also talk about, you know, what kind of weapons those are. So like the guns are more long range, right? Whereas the spears are close range.
And then
And also explain how the average Zulu warrior was trained in close combat, whereas the average British soldier was not, right? So, yeah.
Wait, so the war was it was like a close war, right?
Yes, Mark.
There were some battles that the Zulus won, but I would say overall the British had a slight victory.
So like how did it like keep it close?
They had to adopt new tactics, right? And that's written in there how they adopted ambush tactics and mass assault, and also adopted, when the British, they also adopted some tactics where it's like, when the British would shoot, the Zulus were all ducked down, like that was a new tactic that they developed. So it's things like that.
I only need to find the whole time I spent.
Battle of Islam War.
and then the British one.
I read the entire thing. It's 12 pages.
One of them was on July 4th.
Yeah.
Here, look. It's right here, location, politics.
You guys have about like 5 minutes left. I would say if you haven't started your final response, I would recommend starting that now. relationship with Ethiopia and how they were pushing to conquer Ethiopia, right? Exactly, yeah, that was the focus of the Italian colonies. But actually, you know, we'll learn later on, actually they are successful in 1936. That's way later on in history though, we'll talk about that later. Because they do invade Ethiopia again in 1936, and they successfully take it over. Hey guys, so you finish your final response?
No, you're crazy. It's fun. It's not moving. No, it's not. No, it's not gonna fall. Stop. It's schizophrenic.
It always falls.
I mean, your wall.
Good, awesome. And then I would also say, you know, since you're done now, you might want to start thinking about, you know, the test tomorrow. If you want to email me your thesis statement. Wow, it looks really cool. Yeah, that's fine. So take a picture of it and post it on the activity handout.
I'm gonna do it later.
Marco, we're gonna take a picture.
No, you don't have to.
I'll put it in
No
the
questions?
It was so funny.
Awesome, that's great. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, well, like, you might want to add a little bit more background information, but the background information you have right now is already, like, you might want to add some, like, few things, like, just to kind of, like, I want to add do you take a picture of it and you post it on? You can keep it, you can throw it out, I mean, I'm not. Alright, so, you might want to talk about the, European countries that are being involved. I'm trying to think about that. Talking about the causes of imperialism. You could do that, yeah. That's always tough. But to be honest with you, as a coach,
Watch it out. You just have to take a picture of the river.
We respond to it.
Your response?
Instead of going to the end.
Like, I'm like almost done. Okay, I'll do it for homework.
yes. You can see the picture of it and put it on the activity handout. Yep, put it on the board. You can finish your
I did.
Please put the markers back in the